let's look at not just how useful conflict is in any kind of dramaturgical construction, but I would say it is imperative, which means that without the use of conflict and tension, it becomes impossible for you to tell your story, because the story itself is based on that. Tell you what, let's look at a couple of examples. Okay, let's look at, say, The Godfather. Now, one of the better scripted sort of films that we have seen in the history of Hollywood, and I trust most of you have seen that. And if you haven't, it's mandatory viewing. You must see The Godfather if you want to become a scriptwriter. Okay, let's start with The Godfather. The first scene, you remember the first scene? The first scene is where the Godfather is sitting in his study, and he has received this gentleman called Amerigo Bonacera, who has had some grave injustice committed to him, where his daughter has been beaten up very badly by her boyfriend and his friend because she refused to submit to their molestations. They wanted to take advantage of her, she refused, and they really, really beat her up. Her jaw is broken, her nose is shattered, and she's in terrible, terrible pain, and she has not received justice from the courts of law, because those two boys, they were given a sentence of some 3 years, and the judge suspended the sentence, which means they went free. Now, what is the situation here in this Godfather study? Amerigo Bonacera has come to approach the Godfather to ask him to give him justice because he's been denied justice by the courts and the police. What is the Godfather sitting here for? He's sitting here precisely to help people who come to him to ask for favors, which means there is apparently no possibility of a conflict here, because that man has come to ask for something which this man is willing to give. If the Godfather, if you watch the scene, you will realize that once he finishes his account of what happened with his daughter and why he has come here, you expect that the Godfather will say immediately, yes, of course, I am very sorry that this happened to you, and I am here to deliver that justice. I will make sure that those two boys are punished. That man says, thank you very much, I am very happy, and he would go away. It would make a dead scene. So what happens here? With these two interests which are complementary to each other, the Godfather asks him, why did you go to the police? Why didn't you come to me first? There starts the conflict. Because even though the Godfather is willing to help him, there is a certain manner of asking that the Godfather expects, that you have to come to me in friendship. You have to come to me with respect. I am not a mercenary here to be able to do murder for money. And this the fellow is not doing. So expertly what the author has done is still uncovered a conflict. In spite of the larger objectives being the same, there is a methodology for that request to come in a particular way, which Bonacera is not doing. And thereby you realize it becomes a beautiful scene, because while they are tackling that conflict, where the Godfather is saying effectively, ask me with respect, come to me in friendship. Don't give me money and ask me to do it, because that is not what I do. And Bonacera is refusing to offer that friendship and respect because he wants no relationship with the Godfather. Since the Godfather represents a criminal empire, all he wants is to get this job done, the dirty job done, without getting his hands dirty. Because this is organic to his personality, and because the Godfather's expectations are organic to his personality, his style, they get into conflict. And the entire scene is about struggling with this, where the Godfather is insisting on his position, Bonacera is insisting on his position, as a result of which you discover so many things about the history of their relationship, you discover what Bonacera is like, you discover primarily and most importantly, what is the Godfather's approach? How is it that the Godfather has built this empire? What is the Godfather's notion of justice? What is his code of justice? Suddenly you discover that this is not a single man sitting there. There is an institution which he represents. And all these beautiful things, this beautiful information and insight about this man would never have come out had there not been a conflict between these two gentlemen. In the end, of course, it gets resolved because Bonacera accepts the Godfather's position. He asks for his friendship, he treats him with respect, and the Godfather happily complies by saying, yes, of course, justice will be done, and treat it as a gift. Thank you very much. Go. So it is resolved at the end, but the entire middle portion where the conflict is going on between these two gentlemen, you learn to understand what the Godfather really is. And this tone of dramaturgy continues all the way through.
I believe in America. America has made my fortune, and I raised my daughter in the American fashion. I gave her freedom, but I taught her never to dishonor her family. She found a boyfriend, not an Italian. She went to the movies with him. She stayed out late. I didn't protest. 2 months ago, he took her for a drive with another boyfriend. They made her drink whiskey, and then they tried to take advantage of her. She resisted. She kept her honor. So they beat her like an animal. When I went to the hospital, her nose was broken. Her jaw was shattered, held together by wire. She couldn't even weep because of the pain. But I wept. Why did I weep? She was the light of my life. Beautiful girl. Now she will never be beautiful again. Sorry. I went to the police like a good American. These 2 boys were brought to trial. The judge sentenced them to 3 years in prison and suspended the sentence. Suspended the sentence? They went free that very day. I stood in the courtroom like a fool. And those 2 bastards, they smiled at me. Then I said to my wife, for justice, we must go to Don Corleone.
Why didn't you go to the police? Why didn't you come to me first?